to order. I'll do it one more time for the recording. I'll call this meeting of ORCAA to order. Thank you, Dan. And let's do, I guess, first up is approval of agenda. Are there any changes anyone is looking for the agenda? Okay. Morning, Robin. Seeing none. We have an agenda. I guess we have. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Sorry.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to, well, let's do a quick round of introductions. Let's start with the board, and then we'll go to staff. I'm Greg Brotherton, the vice chair and Jefferson County commissioner, filling in for the chair, Mr. Cooper, who's kind of in transit today, and he is with us though. So, Randy
Nillen, Mason County, and other than that, absolutely nobody.
Jill.
Bill Warney, Grace Harbor County.
Good to see you. Robin
Vasquez, Lacey City Council.
Good to see you. Dave
Tobin, Pacific County Commissioner.
Great. Thanks all for being here. And Joan?
Joan Cathy, Tumwater City Council.
Good to see you. Jeff, you want to take us through staff?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Jeff Johnston, ORCAA Executive Director, and I'm joined today by Robert Moody, our Compliance Manager, Mark Gooden, our Engineering Manager, Odell Hadley, our Senior Air Monitoring Specialist, Dan Nelson, Communications Manager, Lynn Harding, Financial Services Manager, and Debbie Moody, Office Manager and Public Records Officer. And I believe that Lauren Wybrew, Engineer 2, and Rob Weiland, Air Quality Specialist 2, are also listening in.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Good to see everyone. And I don't think we have any other, I think that's everyone. Okay.
Nope, we've got ORCAA's legal counsel here with us as well.
Thank you. Jeff and Mike, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Jeff Myers, legal counsel with Mike Throgmorton.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Okay, the chair report, just for Jim, is briefly, just the big reminder is that our June 14th meeting is going to be in person. Are we celebrating the payoff, the final complete ownership of our property, and it will be great to see everyone after a couple of years in person. So please mark your calendar and really make every effort to get to the ORCAA office for our June 14th meeting. I think Debbie sent out notifications. It's been so long. I think some of our members maybe have never traveled to a meeting, but ORCAA will pay for your mileage if you're outside Thurston County. So fill out the form. Oh, hello, Carolina. Good to have you.
Hello, good to be here.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we'll move on. I don't really have anything else to report.
Hey, Greg, I have one other thing.
Oh yeah, Jim, then Jeff.
Hey, yeah, just Jeff and I talked about seeing if everyone was okay with taking August off this summer based on staff schedules, and I'll be out of town in August. If the board's okay with that, we'll go ahead and calendar it to miss our August meeting.
Okay.
As a reminder for new folks, we have to have 10 meetings per bylaws per year.
Okay, any objections to skipping the August meeting? So if you look at the attached board schedule, it reflects that August meeting. So it's a good document to keep it at the ready. July will still be our kind of back to our hybrid standard.
Right.
Thank you for that, Jim. Jeff, was that the same point you wanted to make?
That was the same point I was going to make. So thank you.
Great.
Do we need a motion for that?
Do we? Jeff, do you know?
Just to be safe, Mr. Chair, I move that we forego the August meeting this year.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded to forego the August meeting for 2023. Any questions or comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Enjoy the sunshine in August. All right, I'm not sure if we have any public with us. I can't see all the participants, but we'll have our only public comment period. So if anyone from the public or anyone at all, I would open it to staff and members as well. Have a public comment on any item on the agenda. We would love to hear from you. You can click raise hand or *9 if you're on your phone, and we will give you 3 minutes to speak.
Doesn't look like we have anybody online.
Okay. I will close public comment and we will move on to the consent agenda. Folks have a chance to review the minutes from April 12th and the expenditures. Any questions, comments? Well, I'd welcome a motion.
I'll move to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'm sorry, Dave. We have a consent agenda that is one more item. Can you maybe withdraw that and rephrase just to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, indicate by saying aye.
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 All right. Moving right along. As long as we don't have anyone talk, we're going to be done really quick. But here we are at an exciting some education for everyone, the Ozone 101. So we'll pass it over to Odell for her presentation on that pesky third oxygen molecule.
Actually, but before handing over to Odell, I just wanted to give a little context. So you probably remember last month, Odell provided some background on the particulate monitoring that we do in our 6 counties. She talked a little bit about the different kinds of particulate matter we measure, how we measure it, the values we see at our monitors, kind of what that data means. So, and kind of continuing that effort to give you all more information, more insight about the work that we do, thought that since May is the start of the ozone monitoring season, that would be a good month to give a little bit of background on ozone. Again, what is it? Why do we monitor it? All those kinds of things, and perhaps even answering the question, why is May the start of the ozone monitoring season? So here you go. And again, if there's additional topics that come up that you come to mind related to our monitoring or any other topic that we do here at ORCAA, please pass that information along. We'd be happy to help provide more information about the work that we do. So Odell, take it away.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So the next thing is, can I share my screen and still be heard? All right, you guys are seeing that Ozone 101?
Yep.
And you can hear me, perfect. Wait, no hiccups this time. Okay, so as Jeff mentioned, I'm just gonna give you a brief presentation on ozone, what it is, why we measure it, why it's a criteria pollutant, and hopefully this is a really basic explanation of some very complicated chemistry. So I just want to put that out there, that I have really simplified this down. And if you start digging, it's going to be a lot more complicated than what I've shared here. But this will give you the 10,000 foot picture and hopefully sort of give you the tools that you need to know or maybe want to know. I'm not sure you need to.
There isn't actually any ozone at 10,000 feet, is there?
Actually, that's where most of the ozone starts. That is the ozone layer. So let me just get into it. Don't take my thunder. So what is ozone? So typically ozone is an oxygen molecule, but it's 3 oxygen atoms stuck together. Typically when we think of oxygen in the atmosphere, it's just the 2 oxygen atoms, as you can see here, and that makes up about 20% of the gas in our atmosphere. And obviously we need that to survive. That's what we breathe. Ozone is a highly reactive and it's really unstable, and it will donate that 3rd oxygen to just about anything. And I bring that up because you'll often hear, especially in health related subjects, oh, these are an antioxidant, or it's an oxidant, it's bad for you. You don't want the oxidants. So what does that mean? It means that ozone is an oxidant. It's toxic to plants and animals, including us, and eating blueberries isn't going to help you avoid ozone toxicity if it's a pretty high enough concentration. The other problem with ozone is that it also reacts with organic compounds and can form PM 2.5 in the atmosphere from just gases. So when we have high ozone concentrations, we can also start to see high PM, which, as we know, is not good. So as I think that was Greg that asked if there was ozone at 10,000 feet in the air, and it is. Ozone in the stratosphere is good, and that starts at about 10,000 feet, I think.
No, it's more like, would be
Meters,
more like,
10,000 meters, right? I'm like,
Yes.
wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, sorry.
No.
So
More like
about
40 or
10,000
50,000
meters,
feet.
there's ozone, which is where the stratosphere and the troposphere start to switch over. And ozone is produced and destroyed at about equal rates. So I've drawn this really little diagram. We'll start up here. We have ultraviolet sunlight coming in, and specifically it's the wavelengths of light at less than 240 nanometers, which we consider ultraviolet. And that will break up an ozone or an oxygen molecule and generate these two radical oxygens that are just hanging out wanting to stick to something else. And they will find another oxygen molecule and stick to it and form ozone. But then more hot sunlight will come in and it will easily break up this ozone molecule and break those back apart, and they'll find each other and form. And so it's this constant cycle of generating and destroying ozone. And when both of those things are happening, those UV light are being absorbed, and that's how it protects us from the UV light. So you hear about the ozone layer, and that's a good thing because it's absorbing this UV light. And when it releases it, it's at a different wavelength, or it doesn't come down to us as much. But basically, the picture is that it blocks the UV rays from reaching us, which is a protective thing for all of us down here at the surface. And naturally occurring ozone is greatly reduced at our level. I put this little CFC molecule down here. I'm not going to get into it. That's a chlorofluorocarbon. And when those get up into the stratosphere, they can actually destroy this cycle. They can interrupt this cycle so that the ozone is destroyed at a much faster rate than it is produced. And then we get things like the ozone hole, and we get UV getting to the surface, and it's a bad thing. So let's talk about ozone at the surface. This is where we don't want the ozone. So this is a very simple picture of how we make ozone at the surface. We need three things to make ozone: hot, dry, sunny days with lots of UV radiation, like as we are expecting this weekend. So we can expect to see our ozone concentrations increase. We also need nitrogen dioxide, that's a precursor, and we need volatile organic compounds. Those are both naturally produced from plants, trees, but also from gasoline and from our sources. And so the way that works is that sun and heat, the UV light comes down, it breaks apart an NO2 molecule and releases one of these oxygens that goes along, and it finds an O2 and it forms ozone, just like you see up in the stratosphere. This other NO molecule, will go down here and find a VOC, and it will take the VOC's oxygen molecule and form another NO2. And then we have this radical VOC or hydrocarbon over here, and we have another NO2, and that says, oh great, let's go make another ozone molecule. So it can continually make more ozone and find extra oxygens on these volatile organic compounds. So, but we do need the sun and this heat in order for these reactions to occur at a rate where the ozone would build up. So even a hot or a sunny day in the winter isn't going to build up ozone, because you also need that heat to increase the reaction rates. Okay, so why do we measure ozone? It's a criteria pollutant. EPA has set that air quality standard, the NAAQS, at 70 parts per billion, averaged over 8 hours. The NAAQS are reviewed periodically, and we're coming into another review period shortly. And we measure it to demonstrate that our region is in attainment for ozone, and we don't have to take additional measures to reduce ozone, because if we were in non-attainment, that would be a problem. We also measure it to ensure that we're not that we can reduce our exposure. So there are health effects from exposure to ozone. There's short-term and long-term health effects. So if you're chronically exposed to high levels of ozone, you can develop lung damage, asthma, that kind of thing. And it also damages plants. And I've shown you a picture here of 2 leaves, one that has been exposed to high levels of ozone over a long period of time. And so that can be a problem as well.
And Odell, can you tell us a little bit what happened to that plant? Because it was, I still don't understand.
It was oxidized. So the oxidants get in there and those radicals, and I'm not a doctor, so this is more biology than I'm used to, but basically it gets in there and it interacts with a plant is a hydrocarbon, it's a carbon chain, and the ozone will get in there and attach oxygen molecules to the carbon fibers of that plant. It's kind of like it's rusting the plant. So like if you have some steel metal out there, rust is oxidized metal, and that would be my explanation, is that the ozone is kind of rusting the plant. I don't know if that, Jeff, if you have better explanations, feel free to jump in at any time.
Nope, that was good. But that's exactly actually what Robin put in the chat about rusting it's like rust for living things.
Oh, good. Yes. Thank you, Robin.
All right.
So this is a cool example of heat, sunlight, and ozone from, I don't know, most of you probably remember June 2021. We had a pretty extreme heat wave. And on one of those very hot days, I came into work and this is a plot of our ozone here at Lacey. And so starting here at about 6 a.m., we got into work at 8, and I saw this jump climb and realized that by 10 a.m. it was going to hit the National Ambient Air Quality Standard, and I got concerned. And so Dan and I talked to Dan, and we decided to put out an ozone alert for our region. And then right as soon as we did that, it took this drop, which is very unexpected. That is not how ozone typically behaves. And so it turned out that we didn't need an ozone alert for our area after we put that out. And this is just a plot of the temperature that day, ambient temperature. And you can see how it follows up, and it kept getting hotter and hotter. And at Lacey, we measured about 107 degrees at the peak of that day. And then it dropped back down. So I'm going to now just show you a plot of what happened in Enumclaw that same day. That was the temperature in Enumclaw, and so you see it increasing. And then this is the ozone in Enumclaw. So when I looked at our ozone, it was higher than Enumclaw, which is typically the area we're in non-attainment. And I was really concerned. I was like, oh my goodness, Lacey is going to definitely go way over. And then it didn't. But this is what I was worried about happening in Lacey, is what we saw happen in Enumclaw. And that is a typical ozone concentration for those kind of temperatures. So
Odell, Robin has a question about this.
Yes.
I don't want to stop your flow, but
oh no, that's fine.
Does the drop of the ozone have anything to do with, sometimes on days where it warms up in the morning, we see cloud cover, and I assume it's because we've got some evaporation happening and clouds form. And does that diminish the ozone? Like, could that be the reason that the temperature suddenly dropped over here and maybe didn't in Enumclaw? It's just because we had more moisture in the air?
The temperature didn't drop. The temperature continued to go up. There were no clouds. I talked to Renil at the Department of Ecology. He thought maybe it was because our wind speeds picked up and the wind was blowing out some of the precursors. I didn't see a very large jump in wind speed. We did see the same thing happen to the ozone down in Vancouver, so it's possible. My other theory, but he didn't seem to think this was viable, and maybe that's true because of the same temperatures in Enumclaw, but sometimes trees can shut down their biogenic release if it gets too hot. Their leaves close up and they actually stop releasing the VOCs, and I thought, well, maybe that was a theory I had. I can't say that's why. So but what Renil really thought was that maybe wind speeds just picked up enough in the afternoon that they were able to blow it out. But the real answer is we don't really know. Like I said, that I'm simplifying very complicated chemistry, and there's a lot that is still being researched, and we don't fully understand about ozone chemistry in the atmosphere. Okay, so how do we measure ozone? It's really simple. We basically pull air in through this reaction tube. We have a source. This lamp emits ultraviolet light. The ozone comes in and it absorbs that ultraviolet light, and then we have a detector down here. The more ozone, the less light reaches this detector, and it can be converted to an ozone concentration. So it's one of the simpler methods of measuring something that we have. It's pretty basic, and easy to do. So where and when do we measure it? So Washington has 13 ozone monitors operating May through October, and of those 13, 3 are year round, and that includes Chica Peak Observatory. So I operate one year round ozone monitor up there. There's also one at Mount Rainier, and there's one at Beacon Hill and Site as well. That's the urban NCORE site. The rest are just a summertime, it's a summertime pollutant. So they just put, ecology puts them out in the summer. In Thurston County, ecology used to measure the ozone in Yelm. I've shown over here, there's a plot. Yelm is the blue line and orange is the Lacey ozone monitor that I've had there. 2 years ago, they had to take down the site in Yelm. And so we offered our site in Lacey as a secondary backup site for that. And so we've been hosting the Thurston County ozone monitor for the last 3 years. And you can see that the Yelm ozone peaks are about 10 to 15% higher than what we measure in Lacey. And that is consistent with models. And that's why that ozone monitor was placed in Yelm to begin with. But when that site becomes available again to have the ozone monitor, we'll probably move it back there because that is the higher concentrations in the county. And that is all I have for ozone. But if you want to read more about it, it turns out that our very own executive director got his PhD studying ozone. So feel free to look up his papers. This is just one of them. And you can read all about the isotopic composition of tropospheric ozone in 3 different environments. So, you know, when he asked me to give this talk, I sort of said, wait a minute, why am I giving this talk?
That's great. I appreciate that photo so much, Odell. And Jeff, do you have anything you want to add since we're in your area of expertise here?
Nope. Odell did a great job. Yeah, ozone is complicated, as I think she said. So ozone's what's considered a secondary pollutant because it's not emitted directly, it's formed in the atmosphere. And so that makes it harder to predict because you've got all these different secondary things going on. So, but thanks, Odell. So
sure.
Nope, nothing else to add unless there are other questions.
You know, I was wondering if the nitrous, the NO2 was being sarcastic or sincere in some of your some of the talks that it had in your slides, but I can see it was being sincere. So that's good. I appreciate it. Thanks for dumbing it down. Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Odell? All right, really educational. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And now on to something as important, but maybe a little less fun theoretically, the draft of our 2024 budget. And we have Lynn with us. Are you gonna lead this off, Jeff?
Yes, yeah, I'll lead it off and then hand it off to Lynn. So again, what we want to talk about today is present to you our draft fiscal year 2024 budget. And continues to make important investments in the agency. During the current fiscal year 2023, we've done a number of really good and important things, updated our website, we've made a number of investments in our IT infrastructure, we've hired some great staff, we've added a new records clerk position, completed salary survey, and implementing the results. We'll talk a little bit more about that, implementing those results in the next fiscal year. We've worked on building maintenance, so a variety of things. And so again, we'll get into those details here in just a couple minutes. But again, I think that our proposed budget for the next fiscal year continues to make important investments in our agency. And just as a reminder for especially the newer board members, so again, ORCAA's budget fiscal year runs from July 1 of 2023 through June 30th of 2024. Our budget year and a lot of other things, a lot of other aspects of our operation are spelled out in the Washington Clean Air Act, specifically 70A.15.1590 is the part that spells out our budget year. and how it's adopted, and the fact that we have to have a budget that's adopted, I think by the 4th, by the end of June every year, that guides our work in the coming year. So again, Lynn put together a package of information that you all have in your packet, includes a number of things. There's a kind of a summary sheet at the top that has a variety of budget assumptions, talks about revenue as well as expenditures, then goes through in more detail. There's also included in there is a list of planned building maintenance and leasehold improvements that we're looking to make in the coming year. There's, again, just for context, a history of salary adjustments or cost of living increases over the past roughly 10 years, and some other things that other adjustments we've made in that area. There is the proposed new salary step structure that, again, we talked about last month when Compensation Connections presented their work on the salary survey that they did. And then we've got a draft fee schedule. So our various fees for our programs, our outdoor burning fees, our new source review fees, assessments, and asbestos, things like that are in there. And then also included copies of some previous board resolutions, Board Resolution 274 and 275, where the board has addressed in the past both the assessments, how those increase based upon cost of living increase each year, and then also other fees, how those increase. So just thought, especially for the newer board members, that it would be helpful to have that as context as you look through these other documents and we talk about our budget. So with that, I think I'll hand it over to Lynn to take us through in more detail.
And I'm not sure if I missed you saying this, Jeff, but just for everyone to make sure everyone's on the same page, we're learning about it today. Great to have big questions or questions for the assumptions today that,
Yes.
that Lynn and Jeff used to build this. But we're going to have our public hearing at the next meeting in June when we're hopefully all in person together.
Yes, exactly. So essentially, this conversation today is our draft budget. So certainly ask away, ask questions, and this also opens up essentially the 30-day public comment period on our budget. So we'll be publishing in some local media in the coming days, and then that comment period will close with the formal hearing at our June meeting, and then hopefully adoption by the board of our budget at that meeting.
Great, thanks. Take it away, Lynn.
Great. All right. Well, good morning, all. Welcome. Nice to see y'all. I'm going to have Dan share the screen, which basically is probably what you're all looking at, and that's our budget packet. And thank you, Jeff, for the great introduction into our budget presentation for fiscal year 2024. I'm going to basically go through some of the assumptions that actually started the budget packet, add a few notes, and entertain questions during the course of our presentation. So basically, the overall highlights of our budget reflects increases in fees. ORCAA applied the CPI for the year ending December 2022, which is 6.3%. The ORCAA's fee programs include the registration, asbestos, open burning, notice of construction, as Jeff had indicated. Staff also completed a workload analysis for all of the fee programs, consistent with resolution number 274 that was approved by the board in June of 2018. And the resolution states in summary that fees will be adjusted annually to reflect the rate of inflation. Annual fee adjustments shall not exceed 3%. ORCAA shall adopt the adjusted fee schedules as part of the annual budget process. If the workload analysis that was conducted and deemed to be the fees are higher than the allowed rate of inflation, the board may adopt a new fee schedule. And that's what we were faced with. Though the resolution states 3%, CPI was 6.3. So the fee schedules have been adjusted to reflect the 6.3% effective on July 1. The annual assessments charged to cities and counties also was increased by CPI of 6.3%. And this includes the amounts that cities and counties pay per capita or per person to support the clean air programs. The budget includes the implementation of the salary step structure or the salary chart as recommended by the Compensation Connections. The budget also includes 17 FTEs. And also, we need to share with you that staff is planning on bringing a recommendation for a new financial assistant to the Financial Committee by January of 2024. Ambient monitoring and outdoor burning programs rely on the core state and federal support. The budget draws on unreserved fund balance to balance the budget. And that amount included in fiscal year 2024 is $216,522, or roughly 7%. And then consistent with board direction, ORCAA will continue setting aside contingency and capital funds for our long-term capital expenditures that include our office building, monitoring equipment, database and hardware needed, and vacation and sick leave. It also assumes we're going to maintain 100% occupancy in our 7 rentals. Again, ORCAA was awarded the 2% Well City Award, which reduces our medical premiums for agency staff. And that is about $4,500 per year. Every little bit definitely helps. Moving on to the summary of revenue. Dan has it up on the screen. Budgeted revenues are.
Wait, hold on a second. There's a discrepancy. So Dan, scroll up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
So yep. So we're at summary of revenue. Yep. There you go. Okay.
Sorry about that. So summary of revenue. Our revenues are projected at 3.1 million. It's about 12% higher than 2023 budget estimates. The fee programs, as previously indicated, include the 6.3% CPI. Let's see, the grant revenues represent 23%, fees and assessments 63%, penalties 5%, rents and miscellaneous 2%, and as previously mentioned, the contingency draw is 7%. We don't anticipate any major increases or decreases in our local, state, and federal grants. And that includes, the core, the PM 2.5, Chica Peak Observatory, CPO, the Wood Stove Education Enforcement, Wood Smoke Reduction, FSEC, which stands for Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. And all of our grants are on 2 to 5 year contract terms, much more efficient than the annual that we used to be on. So also for Title V, we do not anticipate a large, actually, we're anticipating a slight reduction for Title V fees in fiscal year 2024. And this is due to a lower ending fund balance where workload was closer to our budgeted cost, whereas in prior years, expenses actually exceeded the revenue. Title V has 11 major funding sources in our 6-county region. Grays Harbor, you have 5. Congratulations. 2 in Thurston, 2 in Clallam, 1 in Mason, and 1 in Pacific. Let's see. So that's it for this revenue summary. We'll just move on to the summary of our expenditures. Again, our expenditures are 3.1 million. Payroll usually is the largest portion of our expenses, representing 77%, and non-payroll 9%, building and operations for our direct operations 10%, and that includes our wood smoke reduction payments, ecology oversight, and Chica Peak. It also includes implementing the new salary step structure, includes 5% increase for our Association of Washington Cities Employee Benefit Trust, and a stable rate for DRS, the pension contributions. We've already indicated that we're planning on bringing a recommendation for a new financial assistant to the Finance Committee by January. Based on the recommendation by our Compensation Connections, they had recommended, the one recommendation for our benefits that they analyzed was increasing the life insurance for staff from $15,000 to $50,000 at a modest cost of $90 per month to cover 17 employees. We added $1,100 to the annual agency budget. And also needs to be noted that the Compensation Connection, they reviewed the benefits provided to ORCA staff, and they found that ORCA's benefit programs are very competitive. So that's really great news to be able to share with y'all. ORCA will continue to contract with Compensation Connection for some ad hoc assistance. It's about $3,000 that we included in the budget. We have moved the strategic plan from fiscal year 2023 to 2024, which is $8,000. We're also signing an annual contract or maintenance contract with our website designer to keep us up to ongoing maintenance of our new website. We've included hardware software purchases for additional laptops for staff, software for cybersecurity, cloud storage needs. It also includes configuring our conference room and some other office space with an estimated cost around $12,000. We're going to continue contracting with ADP. That's our payroll processor. Again, saving the agency about $25,000.
Hey, Lynn, can I interrupt you for a second? Robin
Yes, sir.
has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Lynn, I read a little bit ahead and I have two questions, one of which you're probably about to get to. One is, how likely do we think it is that we will maintain 100% occupancy of the rental spaces?
Good question.
But that's something that the budget is sort of incumbent on. And then the other question is the continuation of the EPA American Rescue Plan grant funding. Is that funding, I see that you've mentioned that we're purchasing equipment with it, which makes me think it's a capital grant. Are there services that are supposed to be performed under that grant since we didn't have any administrative funding attached to it? Like, are we putting out services without getting any additional staff, I guess is the question.
Oh, no, good questions, Robin. The first one on rentals. We have multi-year contracts with our renters, roughly 3 of them. We have one of them that's on a 3-year contract, and we have a couple of them that are on 2-year contracts. The rest are on single year. I've approached just recently the 3 on single year tenants, and they are definitely planning on staying. They do not plan on going anywhere. And sometimes when that happens, we'd like to offer them a multi-year contract, and most of them prefer that. Our rents are very affordable here. We continue to look at the market to see where we fit. We keep in close contact, good communications with our tenants, and we feel very comfortable with being able to place our rental income at 100% in our budget. It's about $46,000. And again, we feel very comfortable with the stableness of our tenants. Again, close communication is really important. We have a good relationship with them, and some of them say they'll probably be here a lot longer than I will, and I'm sure they will. So I hope that answers that question for y'all. And then secondly, the ARP, the American Rescue Plan, that $131,500 is for the purchase of a monitoring trailer, about $100,000 that has been secured. And we're currently using Chesapeake Observatory funding, which is in the budget at $90,462. That is for the services. That is for the administrative time. That is for Odell's time, her trips back and forth to the Chesapeake Observatory. That's for her time working with the 2 vendors that, one, we purchased the monitoring trailer from, and 2, we just signed the contract with the second vendor for the site cleanup. And it's really exciting. So to answer your question specifically, the administrative time is being covered by the Chesapeake ongoing annual or contract that we have with EPA. And there's a lot of other parties involved in this too, which has helped defray some of the cost. And I'm sure Odell's listening in, and I'm sure she'd be happy to expound on this later in her report if you'd like her to. Okay.
No, that covers my question.
Okay, sweet. Good questions. Thanks, Robin. Appreciate the questions. Okay, moving on down the expenditures, I stopped at where, let's see, our ADB payroll processing. We'll continue that. ORCAA will undergo our next annual audit with the State Auditor's Office in December of 2024. Always gearing up for those. The continuation of the EPA program, American Rescue, we just talked about that. We thought we would be signing contract with EPA earlier than we did, but all is good. We're rolling those funds into our second year. And like I said, contracts have been awarded to both vendors for the purchasing and the site improvements. With the payoff of our office building in December of 2022, we're moving forward with some much needed maintenance. We just replaced our gutters this past week. We're going to work on some siding maintenance, and we also have some exterior painting and some flooring change outs. This is not a complete list. We've included in the budget package what some of those plans are. The budget does not include a satellite office in Pacific County at this time. We currently have a staff member that works remotely in Pacific, and he meets sources at their place of business or a local establishment. Our operational expenses, I didn't have that on this list, but I'm going to share with you. The operational expenditures of our budget includes payments under the wood stove reduction program, purchase of supplies and site costs for our monitoring programs, including the Chica Peak, and payments on behalf of Ole Matt for the site cleanup up at the homeless camp. And that MOU was split this year into next year. So that's why you're seeing it twice. Moving on to the contingency and our capital funds. The contingency fund represents balances set aside for specific projects that the board approved by resolution a number of years ago. And as we all know, the adequacy of reserves is determined by our risks. We can't identify what all those are, but some of those include revenue volatility, economic downturn, rental income loss. So we did talk about that. We're very comfortable with what we have in the budget. Increased pension costs. We continue to look and watch what Department of Retirement Systems is looking forward with in terms of increases. Work closely with AWC on medical costs through the AWC Benefit Trust, and staff turnover and the cost of retraining. The general fund set aside is equivalent to about 2 months of administrative and operating costs. And, having an adequate fund balance is definitely critical. Undesignated fund balance can be used for any lawful purpose and where funds have not been designated for specific operating purposes. So that kind of wraps up the assumptions page. Next, you'll see our revenues that we've identified. You're going to be looking at mostly the fiscal year. Thank you, Dan. Fiscal year 2024. You can see we have built in $3.1 million with the grants, the fees, our other sources of revenue, and then the appropriation from our contingency draw, which we mentioned is $216,522.
Scroll down just a little bit, Dan.
We have our Title V program that we have broken out for you. Again, that's the 11 major sources in our 6-county region. We've determined a workload cost of roughly $631,000 for the year, fiscal year 2024. $16,000 of that will be used to repay our general fund that we've estimated will be at on June 30th, 2023. We've also built in a contingency fund of $30,000, similar to our emergency fund that the board has adopted by resolution. That we have the same thing for our Title V. Those are two separate funds or savings, as you may call them. Moving on down to our expenditures, payroll, which identified as roughly 77% of our budget, $2.4 million. That includes a 4% adjustment, salary adjustment for staff, which is included in the new salary structure chart. That is also part of the budget package. We've estimated our non-payroll administrative cost to be $282,811. Our office building operations minus the principal and interest payment, yay, is about $102,000. So majority of that obviously reflecting a leasehold improvements, $52,000. Our non-administrative operations, which include the wood smoke reduction vendor payments, the ARP, American Rescue Program for Chica Peak, the ecology oversight fees, the ongoing operations and maintenance of Chica Peak, the OLI map, and other monitoring programs. So our expenditures are at 3.1 million. And the net surplus with the Title V is 169,000. And what does that represent? Below that, you'll see that we're using 216,000 of our general reserve contingency, and the 46,527, that is the 30,000 we're holding for a contingency reserve for Title V, and the payback, the 16,000 to our general fund. The last little bit, it just shows that we are estimating the population of 577,000 that is based on the assessments that we are bringing in on revenue. So Dan's moving on to our fund balance. What this shows is our beginning fund balance. We are anticipating we're starting out our fund with 1,989,319. When you add in our projected revenues, remove our expenditures, we should be at, on June 30th, 2024, about 1,800,000. Following that, you'll see where the board approved contingency and capital funds have been established. Our emergency contingency is 488,000. Our Title V contingency, 30,000. We're holding about 4,300 in security deposits. And then our capital funds, as you can see, 120,000 office building, the monitoring 20,000, the database and equipment 250, and the vacation and sick leave for staff 120. Any questions on either of these two pages?
It's a lot of information.
Don't hesitate to ask. On the next page, you'll see this is the listing of the planned maintenance and improvements that ORCAA anticipates during the course of the year. Some of these things may change. Hopefully a lot of them will get done. But these are the planned events for the next 12 months. Moving on to the next page. This is a little bit of history of ORCAA's salary adjustments, or COLA, and what ORCAA has contributed for family independent coverage in our ORCAA's medical and dental and benefits program. We've been pretty constant with the contribution of $525 per month per employee. For the most part, what we pay or what we contribute towards dependent care, for the majority of staff, that's sufficient. It also shows you what previous year's salary adjustments have been with ORCAA. Moving on to the next page, unless there's any questions. Okay, well, this is the proposed salary step structure, and this was based on the Compensation Connections recommendations to our Personnel and Finance Committee. And this is what they chose to bring to the board for approval. It includes their recommendation and the 4% salary adjustment, which is under the CPI of 6.3%, but 4% is the recommendation here. It also includes 11 steps versus the 9 steps in our old system. There's still the 3% between each step. And I can't read the bottom. And then if you can scroll up, oh yeah, we anchored it, or the Compensation Connection anchored the 50 percentile of the market on step E. Scrolling on down to the next page. This pages, I should say, these are all the revised fee schedules that reflect a 6.3% CPI. Mhm. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
A lot in there. Appreciate it, Lynn. And I think even in the intervening month, should people reach out to you if they have questions about this before we come to the hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yeah, please do reach out if you do have any questions, need any additional information about any of this. Reach out to me, reach out to Lynn if you have any questions about it. One thing just that might be interesting context. So a week ago today, there was a Washington Air Directors meeting, which is, again, my colleagues from all of this other 6 local agencies in the state, as well as the Department of Ecology. And I asked kind of what other locals were doing in terms of fee increases and salary adjustments. And again, all over the map, but generally ORCAA's our 4% salary adjustments and our 6.3% fee increases tend to be at the lower end of what other agencies are doing. Salary adjustments anywhere from 3% at the low end to Northwest Clean Air is either doing 7 or 9% salary adjustments. Puget Sound is doing an 8%. And fee increases, again, a lot of range from 2% at Benton County to actually Spokane is looking at doing anywhere between 12 and 16% fee increases. So again, ORCAA tends, our 4% and 6.3% tend to be at the lower end of what some of the other locals are doing. But can certainly answer any questions that you might have at this point about either those things or other parts of the budget that Lynn went through.
Very helpful context, Jeff. Thank you. Any other questions?
I want to say thank you to Lynn for all her hard work.
Thank
This is
you.
a complex budget.
You're very
But
welcome.
strategic investments into the future for the organization. It gives some increases to staff appropriately, and the increase to the size of our budget expenditures and the increase to the size of our income is about the same. So well done.
Yep. Well, that seems like a lovely place to end this this item, but we'll return to this in June. So please, everyone, do study this. You know, this is our biggest work, to me, at least as a policy council here, is making sure this budget works. So appreciate all the work. And we'll move on then, if there's nothing else, to the compliance manager update. Robert, you want to unmute and
be happy to. Good morning, all. So in your tab 5 is the compliance report in your packet there. Spring is clearly here, and we are very busy with complaints and inspections. As you review that report, you'll notice there's multiple pages of business inspections over the past month. We have 2 full pages of asbestos permits that are currently open. We're at a page of land clearing burning in our 5 counties. We do not permit in Mason County, that's why it's 5. And then rather amazing, there's 5 pages of complaints that have come in the last month as well. As far as newsworthy, ORCAA will be at the Grays Harbor Home and Garden Show on May 20th, 21st, so about a week and a half away. Admission and parking are free. You're always welcome to come join us. The event is from 9 to 5 on Saturday and 9 to 4 on Sunday, and it is located at the Grays Harbor Fairgrounds. They had apparently 2,000 visitors last year, and they are expecting a larger turnout this year. So, you know, it's a place we wanted to be, again, trying to get our message out to the world that ORCAA does have some things that they need to pay attention to. So Lynn had already talked about our partnership with OLIMAP, Olympia Mutual Partners, Aid Partners. We had a meeting with them here on May 1st. Basically an ongoing meet and greet. Their organization is growing rapidly in the last several months. They are assisting the homeless communities here in the Olympia area. And it is certainly a benefit to ORCA's staff that when we do get complaints from those locations, we forward them to OLIMAP for their response. They are actually in the communities there and have one-on-one communications, which is far better than what ORCA staff can do right now. So then I have a feel-good story for you today. On page 13 in that compliance packet, the last page there, you notice the name Jeff Rosa shows up 3 times on that list. And unfortunately, this is not the first time his name has appeared on that list. So this is a location in South Olympia Tumwater area, off of 93rd for those that are familiar with the area. The complaints has been about nuisance smoke, and coincidentally, yesterday, Rob Weiland, one of our inspectors, was going to the site at the same time one of the complainants showed up here at the office. And it was an interesting exchange, but Rob was able to get cooperation between the 3 parties that are involved, directly providing each other's phone numbers to those that were being impacted and the person that has the control of the property where the impact was coming from. So it allows them to hopefully address the real-time complaints rather than calling ORCA, at least in the short term. So that was a good thing. A good quality turnout for that. So did I generate any questions for you? Not seeing any there. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. Okay, I believe we're going on to Mark and the engineering report. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Okay, this is tab 6 in your board packet. And this list of facilities in our 6-county region, it's a list of permit applications that are in-house here with ORCA and that we're processing. And I have a short report today. I'm just going to report on McKinley, but if you have questions regarding any of these in your jurisdiction, in your respective areas, please ask. So my report on McKinley is that if you scroll down to McKinley, let's see, in tab 6, it's on page 3 of 4 right at the top. It's the status says completeness determination pending, and I just wanted to report that actually the application is much farther along than completeness determination here. We're actually working with McKinley to come to terms and come to terms regarding the conditions in their approval order that we will issue. And the approval order is what we call another name for the air permit. It contains the enforceable conditions for which we approve any new air pollution source. So we're at the phase of negotiating what those conditions are going to require. And so I just wanted to state that's where we're at. Also today, we received finally a mitigated determination of non-significance for McKinley's project. And that's a gatekeeper in our process. We need to wait for a SEPA threshold determination to take place before we can actually issue a final determination on one of these notices of construction. So we got that today, so we can proceed ahead. And like I said, we're in the negotiation stage here with McKinley and fine tuning the conditions that they will have to abide by once they install this new control system. And so that's my report. And please ask if you have any questions on any of these cases.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions, Mark? All right. Appreciate the update, and we will move right on to we've got some more time with Odell with the air report.
Hey, everyone. I don't know what tab this is, but I'm going to share my screen here. So. Okay, share screen and this one. Okay. All right, so this is the April 2023 air monitoring report. And this is our summary for all of our sites. You can see as we move toward the summer, this is pretty typical where we really just see the PM 2.5 concentrations bunched together right down there in the very good category. In Lacey, we lost power to the site on April 23rd and didn't get the data logger and the instruments didn't come back online properly. And so we lost a few days of data there until, because it was over the weekend and I was able to get out and get it running again, but nothing to be concerned about. I didn't go over the good category during that time. And then in Raymond, we finally have data again. I know we've been offline since almost January, but we installed the new data logger and the site has been upgraded to be the same as all the other sites. And we are now collecting data from Raymond again. So that's great news. The saturation study, we have a few more months on that in Grays Harbor. You can see all of the sites that we are collecting data at using the purple air sensors. And even with our highest peaks out here on Westport, we are still in the good category for air quality for the 24-hour averages. So that is great across the board at all of these sites. And you can see this Quinault site up there in the mountains is really our cleanest site there in Grays Harbor.
And Odell, if I could just could you just say something about, because you're planning on concluding the Grays Harbor saturation study in the coming month or two, right?
Yeah, so at the end of July, by the end of July, we will have a complete year at all of these sites. So I will have a complete data set to look at for the final analysis and report.
Okay.
In other monitoring news, we did, as I showed you in our ozone presentation, we installed the seasonal ozone analyzer and a transfer standard there at Lacey site that is owned by Ecology, and they came over to help do that. Jeff and I and Dan also met with the Quinault air quality team last month, which was really great because I hadn't met with Jonathan before, and it's always good to meet up with our tribal partners and see what kind of help we can give each other on getting our air quality data for the peninsula. I already mentioned that we installed the new data logger at Raymond. Had to fix a pump at Aberdeen. Rob did the quality check at Port Angeles. And as Lynn mentioned, we did the draft and review the Chesapeake site cleanup contract with A Action Group, and I did get a signed contract on Monday with them. I went down and met with them, so that's really exciting. And we will be beginning work at Chesapeake on July 24th. That is the date we've put, with hopefully to have it all ready and done in 2 weeks, but we've added an additional week as a contingency for, you know, all the things that you don't think are going to go wrong, but they do. So we have about 3 weeks, but we're hoping for 2 to be down. And then this is also our 5 years where we have to file a new quality management plan for the data with EPA, and they have new guidelines. So that's taken up quite a bit of my time last month trying to get that. Usually it's just change a few things and send it back, but this time they wanted a whole new structure. So we are currently finalizing our quality management plan with EPA. And that is the April news, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Adele. Questions, comments? Yada, yada, yada. Still seeing your screen there, Dan.
Sorry. Stop share. Stop share.
Stop. Okay, great. Well, good news. I guess these reports get a little more interesting as we move deeper into the year, I know. Okay. Oh, I've lost my agenda. On to communications updates. Dan, take her away.
So quickly, we had the Air Quality Awareness Week last week that you guys passed a resolution on at your previous meeting. Had really good participation on that in social. I think on Nextdoor, we saw an average of about 28,000 views of each day's posting. Not nearly as much on Twitter and Facebook, but we did have good shares from Clallam County Health Department, made sure they shared everything we did. So I want to call them out for helping us get the word out. So thank you, Clallam County. Next month, we have the Smoke Ready Week on June 12th through 16th. Similar thing, it'll be a coordinated effort for air agencies throughout the Pacific Northwest to share information with specific topics each day on being prepared for wildfire smoke events as they develop later in the summer. So helping people prep and get ready for that before the smoke actually inundates us, if it does in fact do that. And it does look like we will see some hotter and drier temperatures and precipitation levels later in the summer, according to National Weather Service, and moving into a El Nino year. So that means a warmer, drier winter on average. So the chances of having wildfires later after July and well into the fall is higher than normal, it looks like, according to projections I've seen so far. With that in mind, we also have an event next week up in Port Townsend with the Port Townsend Health folks talking about Smoke Ready and being prepared. So I'm joined by the State Department of Health and some of Greg's team up there to reach out to that community.
I'll see you there too, Dan.
Excellent. Yeah, I heard we're using some of your equipment.
Yeah.
Other outreach, I had a good conversation with somebody from a local bank here just up the road from our office that he actually stopped and talked to Rob Weiland when I was on vacation last week, and they've essentially want to get some information in their bank lobby and share it with potential homeowners and new homeowners about asbestos demolition, outdoor burning, all the things that homeowners should be aware of in regards to ORCAA and our program. So he's invited me to put together a static table of information they can leave up in their lobby for an extended period of time. So that's kind of exciting, and hopefully we can branch out and do that more often at other facilities and maybe even into some of the realtor offices. And finally, we've got our wood smoke reduction grant is wrapping up the end of this fiscal year. We will be applying for and undoubtedly getting a renewal of that grant. The state did set aside, I believe, $4 million in the state budget for the biennium, same as last biennium. We're meeting next week, all of the stakeholder agencies, to discuss the terms of that and how the new grant will play out. So stay tuned, but we'll be working with ecology and then reaching out to our local jurisdictions to see how we want to apply that. But at the very least, we'll still be applying the recycle award to all of our 6 counties and maybe expanding the replacement award to some other communities as well. So I think that's about it for me.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
I'll just jump in. If anybody has any particular thoughts, as Dan mentioned, we'll be renegotiating, kind of rethinking our wood stove program as we get ready for the next 2-year ecology grant cycle. But if you have any questions about it or suggestions about the rebates, the kind of products that we offer rebates on, now would be a good time to provide some input, because again, we'll be and over the next few weeks and next couple months, probably be rethinking all of that. So
Yeah,
let
and
us know if you have any questions or thoughts.
yeah, thanks, Jeff. I forgot to bring that up, but especially the one issue of concern for many of us is balancing reduction of particulate matter and ambient air issues with climate change, and specifically about we're reducing wood stove use and providing incentives for natural gas appliances, while many communities are in the process of restricting or discouraging the use of natural gas appliances. So we want to find that balance between climate change and ambient air protections and make sure we're not conflicting with any of the local jurisdictions' policies and practices. So we'll want to talk to everybody and make sure that we're all on the same page going forward.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, and this is maybe going really tangential, but as the new wildland urban interface codes come online July 1st, as well as the energy code, and we're going to have to mandate installation of heat pumps, I think. I'm just wondering if it's something that ORCAA should be hip to. I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil in the building community, and I'm just concerned, and I don't have a specific ask, but I'm wondering if that's something that we pay attention to at all at ORCAA.
I mean, I certainly try to be aware of things going on, but if there's specific things that I guess you as ORCAA board members are aware of, or conversations you're having with your other within the city councils or with your county commission, that you think, oh, ORCAA should be part of this, or ORCAA should be aware of this, certainly reach out to Dan, reach out to me. And specifically, Dan was talking about we have had some conversations with City of Olympia, who is doing a lot in terms of their climate efforts, and they've got some heat pump incentive efforts that they're working on. And so we've had conversations with them just about making sure that our programs are in line with what they're looking at doing. But again, so I guess let us know if you have particular thoughts on any of this, or questions about how it interfaces with ORCAA's work.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions for Dan? Okay. We'll move on back to Lynn, I guess. Do we have an additional finance report? We get you 2 times this month.
Yes, yes, thank you. And just to extend on Dan Nelson's report on the wood smoke reduction, I just processed 14 requests yesterday. So those checks will be going out to vendors by tomorrow. So yay. Just a couple mostly courtesy reminders. Greg had already shared with the board members at the onset of our meeting, if you're planning on requesting travel at the June meeting, there is an IRS W-9 form that will need to be completed for my accounting records. Thank you. And then, I just want to provide a shout out to our wellness committee. Aaron Manley, Tiffany Flores joined me with the wellness committee, providing our employees with, options for improved greater health. That is our vision. We try to make all good possibilities, positive possibilities available to staff. We got a couple functions going on now. We got a walking challenge during the month of May. 84% of our employees are participating, which is great. You want participation. You want to try to reach out to all of our staff. And we also have mental health awareness happening this month. It's important. It's a silent issue, and making staff aware for themselves, their family and friends is also important. We also share the wellness in all of our corners and floors we have a puzzling table, Sudoku. Yes, I love that. And then, wellness room for youth. So it's important that I again recognize our wellness committee. They're doing a great job. Lastly, I look forward to seeing you all next month at our open house board meeting and celebration. So thank you all.
I had one question that, so are we gonna try to stay after the meeting and socialize? Is that the idea that we're you know, whenever we finish 11:30 or 12, we continue to break bread together or something?
Yep,
There you
and
go,
yeah,
Jeff.
that's a great segue into, yeah, so let me just talk a little bit about what we've got in the works for the June celebration. So again, that is our June board meeting and budget hearing. We're expecting that the meeting will probably, end by between 11 and 11:30. And then we've got our festivities from noon to roughly 1:30. And so I should have received an invitation, I think end of last week from Dan. And so the idea is, and again, hope we have nice weather. If we're all inside that day, it'll be a little more crowded, but we're hoping that we can expand to the outdoors, use some of our outdoor space here. But expecting that we'll just have a short program, maybe a few folks who want to say a few words, assuming that Jim, our board chair, will want to say a few things. I'll probably say a few things. And then really it's just time to, because I know a lot of folks haven't been to the ORCAA building or haven't spent much time here or been here in quite a while. So we can, show you the building, give you a tour, and just time to visit and get to know each other a little bit more. Because I know we just spend this very short amount of time together online every month, but we don't have a chance to really connect. And so, and we have invited previous ORCAA staff. So I know Fran McNair is planning on being there, our previous director, and a few other staff who were here for many years, made a lot of contributions to ORCAA. And we'll have some sandwiches and things, but please, if you can, plan to spend an extra hour or so. We didn't want to start it till noon, didn't want to crowd our meeting too much, our board meeting, but again, expecting that will be done by 11:30, 11:45 or so. So, Greg, does that answer your questions about what we've got planned?
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions folks have about that? Not seeing any. Okay.
Great. And you can just continue with the director's report, please.
Okay, great. Well, let's see that. One thing that we talked about last month was I showed just a very quick draft of my performance measures, and I had been planning on coming back to you this month to finalize those. Just with everything going on with the budget and other things, I didn't have a chance to pull that together. So, but I will pull those together and send some, so you'll see something as part of the budget package for the June meeting, and we can have what I'm guessing will be a fairly short discussion on that to finalize those. Let's see, again, the legislative session ended at the end of April. While there were a variety of things in play to kind of impact ORCAA tangentially, there was nothing really directly related to ORCAA. And so don't really have anything related to ledge session to report. Although I will mention one thing, there was a bill extending hog fuel tax exemptions through 2034. And I know that ORCAA has a number of sources in our 6 counties that do take advantage of those tax breaks. Let's see, we already talked about the June celebration. Just mentioned, I know we talked earlier in the meeting, Greg mentioned the board agenda planner. So again, do encourage you to take a look at that. Let me know if there are topics that you would like to know more about, if things that you hear in the compliance manager report, in the engineering manager report, or other things you'd like to know more about ORCAA's work. We can certainly put something on the agenda. And Robert already mentioned the OLIMAP meeting that we had. So those were the updates that I had. So unless there are any questions on any of this, I think I'm finished.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions or comments for Jeff? Okay, well, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everyone in person next month. I guess we are to good of the order. Anything for the good of the order? Well, I've got something. I always like to bring, a little bit of levity to any meeting. So I have a joke. Why did the air quality index break up with the pollution index? No one?
Why?
Because it was a toxic relationship. Thank you.
But
Gotta make everyone cringe a little bit before we go. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Happy Public Service Recognition Week, everyone.
Indeed, yes. Thanks everyone for your service. And I assume we don't actually need an executive session. It's on there in case we needed it.
correct.
Okay. Great. Dan put the invite for the party next month in the chat as well. So take a look at that, and hopefully look forward to seeing everyone down in Olympia on June 14th. So have a great day. We are adjourned.
Great. Thanks, everybody.